Hey guys, Mike here with EBR. Now ask yourself this, if you could design an e-bike, but it couldn't look like an e-bike from the outside looking in, how would you get it done? I mean, think about it. It's kind of an interesting design challenge. You couldn't have motor noise, you couldn't have a big chunky frame or those huge tires that kind of scream e-bike from a mile away. It would also need to be light enough to carry up a flight of stairs or throw it on any old bike rack without worrying about weight capacities of the rack. Well, meet the Tenways CGO600 Pro, a lightweight, sleek city commuter e-bike that Tenways says weighs only 37 pounds and they promise over 50 miles of range. Oh, and it comes in two drivetrain configurations. You can opt for a Shimano 8-speed Claris setup like we have here, or go with a Gates carbon belt drive single-speed setup with no change in price regardless of what you choose when you check out. So I've spent my time with the Tenways CGO600 Pro and I've got some thoughts about where it shines and where it could be improved. So take a ride with me and let's do a deep dive on the CGO600 Pro. All right guys, so the Tenways CGO600 Pro is a Class 1 commuter city style e-bike, meaning you have pedal assist up to 20 miles an hour, but no throttle on the bike whatsoever. Now, of course, the bike can go beyond 20 miles an hour, but all that effort at that point will be on you and how hard and fast you can pedal. Now, this bike is priced at $1,599 with a small caveat that in the US, if you are a teacher, first responder, or veteran, you can get a $150 discount applied at checkout. That takes the price down to about $1,450. Now, this comes in 3 frame sizes that fits a span of 5'7" up to 6'5" and beyond. And that's between a medium frame for 5'7" to roughly 5'11", a large frame from 5'11" to roughly 6'5", and then the extra large frame to 6'5" and above. Now, personally, I found it a little odd that they have a class frame for 6'5" and above, which doesn't seem like a lot of people, but they don't have any for under 5'7", which seems like a larger pool of the market, but that's what we're at. Now, it comes in 4 frame colors. This is the sky blue, but they also have avocado green, pebble gray, and a blacked out midnight black that looks very cool. Now, some geo numbers for this specific large size frame. It's got a 32.5-inch standover height. You've got about 8 inches of adjustability here in the seat post through the quick release lever. You've got a 44-inch wheelbase and a kind of long reach up top at about 17.5 inches. Now, what that equates to where you're riding, I'm 5'11", and I found the reach to be a little bit more aggressive than most commuter style bikes. It's a little more leaned forward than I've seen in the past, but not overly aggressive or overly uncomfortable. It's just got more of that almost mountain bike style lean into the handlebars feeling. Now, the max payload on this is 300 pounds. And when it comes to tires and wheels, they went with a 700C alloy wheel, and they wrapped that in 700 by 45 CST tires that have some slick commuter tread pattern and puncture protection, as well as a reflective sidewall stripe for just visibility in traffic or low light situations. Now, in terms of fenders and racks, we do have included alloy fenders, which right now on their website says is a free accessory that's included with purchase. I don't know how long that will last, but as of now, if you're ordering, you're getting the alloy fenders included. When it comes to racks, there is mounting points for a rear rack, and that is going to be kind of the end of it. I was surprised to see there was no water bottle cage bosses on the inside of the frame triangle, but at a minimum, you can at least do a rear rack for some of your gear when you're riding. Now, when it comes to lighting, they did include a rear tail light that is wired into the bike system. And then up front, you have a headlight that is kind of uniquely designed into the frame. It's a frame integrated headlight that you see up there on the front. It's a nice bright LED light that does a good job in daytime and low light conditions to both be seen and to see while you're riding. Now, they say this bike is advertised, or they advertise this bike as weighing 37 pounds. That's super light for an e-bike. So of course, when I got this in for testing, I threw it up on the scale. Now, I'm going to give one caveat on their 37 pounds. They do say in the small fine print under that on their website that that's with no accessories, with the battery, but no other accessories. So when I threw this up, it did have the alloy fenders on, and without the battery and having the fenders on it, it weighed right at 40 pounds even. If I threw the battery onto it, then it went up to about 45 pounds. So we've got about a 5-pound battery, and without it, about a 40-pound even bike. So still very lightweight, but about 3 pounds over what they advertise. So when it comes to the powertrain on this bike, we've got a 350-watt rear hub motor that pumps out 45 Newton meters of torque and is activated by a torque sensor. Now, I gotta say, I've ridden probably close to a couple hundred e-bikes specifically that have torque sensors. And I can pretty confidently say that not any one combo of motor and torque sensor from any brand is going to be the same across the board. All of these torque sensors have kind of individual characteristics, personalities, and most importantly, the programming that's used to control them. And I have to say, one, this motor is nearly silent. I tried multiple times to really listen for it, even going higher speeds, higher PAS levels, and a couple times I got wind of it, but really it's extremely hard to hear this, even when you're trying to hear it. And frankly, you probably will never hear this motor because you're not going to be thinking about it. It just never makes itself known. And that's a really strong selling point for a lot of folks who don't want to feel like they're on an e-bike and let people hear it when they're passing them by. This would be the kind of bike you could really get by and nobody would know you're on one because they're never going to hear it, which is really cool. Now, torque sensor wise, like I said, I've tested a lot. And I'm not trying to just gas up this company. This is one of the best torque sensors I've felt on a direct-to-consumer e-bike, and it really rivals what you would feel on a higher-end legacy brand bike. They just really dialed in this motor and torque sensor between the noise and the natural assistance of the feel of that motor delivery. Now, in pedal assist terms, again, you can go up to 20 miles an hour max, and that's over 3 PAS settings. So 1 being the lowest and 3 being the highest at that 20 mile an hour assistance mark. Now, when it comes to the battery, we've got a 36 volt system that's got 10 amp hours, giving us 360 watt hours of juice for our rides. Now, it does come with a key, which you can kind of remove and secure this in place or take it off for off-the-bike charging. I'll show you how that works now. So this is the key that comes with the bike. You'll just simply insert it on the other side here. And when you turn it, that pops the battery up out of place right there, and that allows it to come out. Super slim and lightweight, like I said, just under 5 pounds. Now, it's not UL 2271 certified, but I reached out to the company and just had a chat with them before we did the review. And they said that they're currently working on that and that they hope to have that certification from UL in the coming months. And it's just good to see that they're kind of committed to that safety standard. And it does take time to get those certifications rolling out, but at least it's in progress and on the way. Now, when it comes to range, they say this can get up to 53 miles of range, this bike. So, of course, I took it out for some testing and rides, and I kind of recorded all my rides. Now, when I went on the minimum PAS, so the lowest assistance level, I was able to go over 60 miles, just over 60 miles, barely over 60 miles, but over 60 miles for a bike that advertises up to 53. Now, that's not a ton of elevation on this ride, and depending on your size, weight, and your terrain, obviously your results may vary, but I got a really promising just hair over 60 miles on this bike, and that was super cool. Now, when I ran it on maximum pedal assist, so basically right up against that 20 mile an hour mark, I did that multiple times, and I pretty consistently got between about 20 and 25 miles on a single charge. So whether you go full bore, you can expect 20 to 25 miles, and on minimum assistance, I was able to get over 60. Really solid numbers for a bike and a battery of this size. All in all, just did really, really well. Now, when it comes to a warranty, this does have a 2-year warranty on the battery, and the frame itself has a 5-year warranty. In terms of components, they went with a 2 kind of flavor option. So this here is the 8-speed Shimano Claris. It's got a 48 tooth chainring up front with a Shimano Claris 8-speed rear derailleur and an 11 to 32 rear cassette. Now, we live in an area that's relatively flat with some slight elevation here and there, and I like having the 8 speeds to work through, especially for steeper climbs or things like that. But if you live in an area that's relatively flat, or you just want kind of a maintenance-free bike you don't have to worry much about, you can opt for the single-speed Gates carbon belt drive. Now, those are really popular for some good reasons. One is a carbon belt drive is virtually maintenance-free. They say you can go upwards of 20,000 miles. That's not a hard number, don't quote me on that, but essentially you can go a long time without ever needing to worry about the life of the carbon belt itself, and you can handle tensioning the belt just through loosening these screws on the chainstays, and it really makes for a super simple bike that has virtually no maintenance. Now, the cool feature about being able to pick between the 8-speed drivetrain and a Gates carbon belt drive, some companies already offer that, but this is the only company I've seen so far that's letting you pick at checkout, and it doesn't change the price. That's a super cool feature. It just lets you dial in the bike best for where you live and the type of riding you're doing. Personally, I like having the flexibility, but if you don't care about it, that Gates carbon belt drive is a strong option as well. When it comes to braking, we do have Tektro hydraulic disc brakes. Now, these are 2-piston calipers with 160mm rotors. I think it's a super efficient combo for a bike that is this light and is capped at that 20-mile-an-hour pedal assist. It's not super heavy with a lot of inertia and mass rolling down the road. It doesn't need 4 pistons and 200mm rotors. It's just efficiently set with 2-piston calipers and 160 rotors. A very nice stopping power combo that I felt worked great in my time riding the bike. And you've got that peace of mind from Tektro, a big reputable brand. So things like servicing, parts, longevity shouldn't be much of an issue at all. Now you've got 170mm alloy cranks, and on the pedals, they did include some flat plastic pedals that do have some raised traction on them. They're plastic pedals, and some reflective strips for visibility in low light situations. Now, in terms of the saddle, this is their in-house branded saddle. It's kind of a standard slim saddle. I found it to be comfortable, no issues there whatsoever. You've got an alloy seat post with a quick release lever with about 8 inches of adjustability here. Now, no suspension on this. It's a fully rigid frame. I will say I found that airing these tires down to the low 30s really gave this bike a really plush feel, even on some light gravel. Airing down tires goes a long way in comfort. So if you're somebody who's a little apprehensive about a rigid frame, I would say air down and you'll be pleasantly surprised. Now up front in the cockpit, we have a 620mm wide bar. It's a flat MTB style bar, which I kind of like having on here, but that does lend to that 17.5-inch reach where you're kind of leaning forward a bit more than normal. And it gives it a slightly aggressive position without being too uncomfortable. I think the bike is pretty dialed in for comfort, and the 17.5-inch reach can still be adjusted because we have an adjustable stem here. So if you don't like leaning forward a bit, you can simply raise that up and have a bit more of an upright ride. Now, we do have lock-on grips on both sides, and they have kind of these end hooks for your palms to rest against and some good traction on them as well. On both ends, we also have the Tektro hydraulic disc brake levers and the Shimano Claris 8-speed shifter. It's a trigger shifter under the bar with a small window so you can kind of see what gear you're in on the top side of the bar. Now over here we have the bell, which is a good reminder. You should subscribe to our channel and turn on bell notifications. You never know when the next bike we review is the one you're looking to get. And finally, on this left side, we have a color display, an OLED display that we'll take a closer look at now. All right, so this is the home screen when you turn on the CGO600 Pro. It's a really slim, kind of low profile OLED display that's got really nice coloring and high contrast. Even here in direct sunlight, you can see this no problem. But look, I get it. I'm mid-40s myself, and as you get older, it's kind of hard to see some of these smaller numbers. So one of the cool features that we'll get into in just a second is the app connectivity, and that will allow you to kind of use your phone as a large display if this is too small for you. But if you don't mind that, this is a really sleek, just out of the way display that still gets the job done. So right up top here, we have the battery meter. That's the remaining battery, the speed here in the center in miles per hour, the trip meter right around 240 miles right now, and the current assist level changes as you button up and button down your riding modes, which is just 1 through 3. Now, if you want to get some other data screens, you can cycle by hitting the mode button, and you can see trip time, odometer, and then current power wattage outputs, but since we're not riding, that's at 0. Hitting it again gives you current range left if we were pedaling, average speed and max speeds. And then one more time takes you back to the home screen. Now there's a couple basic advanced settings you can access, and you can do that by holding the mode button down for a few seconds, and then that will open up the advanced settings. Here you can change display unit, the backlight brightness of this display, how long auto power off time, so how long it takes the bike to power off once you stop using it, wheel circumference, so if you changed wheel size, you would change that in here. Speed limit for the bike does go up to 20 miles an hour. You can try to go past that in here. It's not going to change anything as far as the bike's capability though. Here's where you can change a security password for the bike, and here's where you can get information about your battery. And HMI info is just going to be things like the serial number, firmware versions, things like that. And one more will allow you to clear trip data, and then hitting it again will allow you to change the language of the bike, so English or Dutch, whatever your country is. And then one more takes you back to the top where you can hit mode 2. All right, so we're out here on the Tenways CGO600 Pro. And this is the Pro-C, so the chain drive version, which is an 8-speed Shimano Claris. Got a worker coming through, I'm gonna let him pass. But there's also the Carbon Gates belt drive version, which one cool thing about it, comes in at no price change. So you just kind of pick the drivetrain you want, whether you want the no maintenance Carbon Gates single speed belt drive, or you want the Shimano Claris 8-speed. There's no change to the price, which is really cool. You just kind of pick what you want. So the riding position on this, because we have a flat bar and kind of a longer reach at 17.5 inches, it's kind of a hybrid. You're kind of leaning forward into the handlebars. Your natural gaze, it just heads out maybe about 15 feet in front of you, so you're able to see the path without bending your neck or trying to arch your neck to see around. All in all, it's comfortable, no complaints on the way it feels. The biggest thing that catches your attention on this bike is just lack of any noise. I'm in the highest pedal assist level right now. Normally that's where you hear the most noise on a motor. This one just doesn't have any. I'm talking, I can't pick up any noise from this motor. And for some people, that's a big plus. And I fall into that camp. I just like bikes to not sound like, you know, I don't want to hear the motors on them when I'm riding them. Just a personal thing. And this one is probably the quietest I've ever felt. So you've got 3 riding modes. You've got basically pedal assist 1, 2, and 3. And that takes you to 20 miles an hour, that class 1 limit, which class 1 is pedal assist to 20 and no throttle. So this bike has no throttle. Aside from this motor being quiet, the torque sensor is really, really good. I think it punches above its weight class when it comes to torque sensors. Not all torque sensors are created equal. The programming depends, the quality, the brand, all that really matters. And on this one, it's just very smooth. You don't really notice it engaging or disengaging. Just feels pretty darn intuitive. Much like a higher end brand's torque sensors can feel, this one can definitely hang with the bigger boys. So I said the bike's silent, but if you heard that little bump, you might have heard a little rattle. That's because the only time I do hear any noise on this bike, it's either the alloy fenders or the kickstand, which is really no fault to the bike. Those are just things that can move and make noise. Adding to that, we have 700 by 45C tires. I think 45C was a solid choice because you're wide enough that you have traction, so like 1.9 inches thick, roughly, or 1.8 inches probably. But you don't have super skinny tires. You've got decent tread for commuting, even in rain. They roll really fast and smooth. Yeah, so no complaints in the tires, and they've got a little reflective sidewall on them for some visibility, especially in low light traffic conditions. It's going to be a really solid commuter, weekend recreation bike, and it just masquerades as an analog bike that doesn't have any power to it. It's really kind of well done, well thought out, good geo, silent ride, super smooth. And the braking here is handled by the Tektro hydraulic disc brakes. Always like seeing Tektro on there. It's just a respected brand with a good reputation. Service and longevity should not be an issue. Let's just see how they feel real quick. So I've been like braking and playing with this bike all week, and everything on it feels really dialed in. It's a good little, this like lightweight e-bike, commuter style e-bike, they're having a bit of a moment right now. A lot of brands are coming out with them, and they're all over the board as far as how they feel. And this one, it's going to go up there as one of the better ones for sure in my book. It's just stood out to me as a good, smooth, solid, quiet, and fun to ride bike. But those are my thoughts from just, you know, kind of a talking head perspective. Let's go talk to our mechanic. You know, Ben's got a lot of time wrenching on bikes, and he's got some interesting insights about what he likes and some things he would improve. So let's go chat with him. All right, guys, we are here with Ben. He is our in-house mechanic who has a lot of time wrenching on bikes, a couple decades now, and he just kind of shares his thoughts on each e-bike that we review. He'll kind of go over some things that he likes about each bike and then go over things he doesn't. Ben, I am going to let you do your thing and just step out of the frame, but I want to say thank you to Feedback Sports. They've given us some of their tools and specifically this Pro HD aluminum rack. It's a very stable rack. It can hold e-bikes really well and it packs up fairly light and small and easy to transport. So if you like to tinker on your bikes and you're tired of your flimsy rack at home, I'll put a link down in the description. These are super solid and I kind of personally wish I owned one, but for now, I'll let you guys handle that. Ben, just take it away with what you like about the Tenways CGO600 Pro.
All right, thanks, Mike. First things first, this bike is simple. It looks great. I am a fan of a rigid fork on a bike like this rather than a suspension fork that's got a lot of front to back play. So riding this bike, man, it just is great. It feels nice, feels solid. Usually I'm not a big fan of adjustable stems on bikes like this because they seem like they have a lot of flex in them, but I'll say kudos to Tenways. This is a fully adjustable stem to position it for a rider preference, body size, anything like that, but it's solid. It doesn't flex or anything. So gosh, I think that's great as far as mechanical ability goes. I'm a fan and growing to be a fan of batteries that are on the top side of the down tube rather than the bottom side. The reason is because it sure is easier to access, easier to get to. Sometimes when the battery comes out of the bottom of the down tube, you have to move the wheel around, and I've even had batteries in some cases just fall out over bridges or big bumps. So this is just a nice secure position for the battery. The tires on this bike, you know, a lot of people don't put a lot of weight in tires, but these are really thick. They've got a thick and smooth rubber durometer on here. So riding it even at a high pressure of 65 or 70 PSI, it felt really smooth. So tall sidewall on the tire, a lot of rubber, really great feel for this thing. As a mechanic, I always like to see a two-piece chainring. You know, I've mentioned this a couple of times. So when and if you need to replace just the outer chainring where the chain actually works with, it's easier, it's less expensive, they seem to be stiffer. These guys also have a nice metal chain guard, which is awesome. So if you're transporting or if the bike falls, your chainring is going to be protected. I think that's awesome. Well, you know, on this bike, we review a lot of bikes here, and this one comes with a real Shimano drivetrain. It's called Claris. Okay, maybe it's more of their entry-level touring or road category, but the derailleur is built. It's got molded aluminum instead of stamped steel, so mechanically this thing is very sound. It shifts awesome. It's an 8-speed, so you get a lot of steel in the chain and on the cassette, so you're going to get a lot of miles on this thing too, Mike.
Nice, man. What kind of things would you improve on the CGO?
Well, not too much. This bike, for what it costs and how it's set up, I really, really like it, but I would ask that they consider going with some aluminum pedals versus plastic. I know plastic is lightweight and it's inexpensive, so it keeps the price of the bike overall down. However, they just don't last. They do crack, they do break. Also, the rear light, which is very nice to have. It does have a cable that runs on the inside of the rear fender. It's great, it's protected, it's got its own protected channel, but the way that this one works, it's kind of in a C channel on the inside of the fender, so the wire sits in there, but we've found that it just vibrates and rattles. So is it a problem mechanically? No, but does it get annoying? A little bit. So the only way to solve that problem would be to take the wheel out, find the cable in that channel and wrap it with some foam or something at the factory rather than just put the wire in loose. That would just help it be quieter. A quiet bike sure is a nice bike to ride. Another thing that I'm not ever a real big fan of is an integrated headlight. I think that it's cool for a couple of reasons because it is integrated and the wire goes right to it, but as far as somebody who has ridden at night a lot of times in northern Utah on mountain bike trails, you really want to see where your handlebars are pointed. In this case, when the light's on, you can just see straight forward, but what happens if you want to see what's over here on your right? You want to turn into a dark alleyway or something, you have to follow the light of the head tube, which for steering and light purposes, I just wish they would have done something on the handlebar. And then the other part is, as a mechanic, we're asked to replace these things or diagnose why they don't work. So if and when, and reality, everything's going to break or malfunction at some point. An integrated light means how hard is it going to be to get a new bulb? What if the wiring goes bad somehow on the inside? Is it going to be easy to get new wires? Those are questions I can't say definitively are going to be hard to do or get, but it just does add to the complication. And that's really about it, Mike, on this one.
Nice, man. Once again, thank you for your time, Ben, and we will see you when we get the next bike. So it seems like lightweight, stealthy city e-bikes are kind of having a moment entering into 2025 right now, and frankly, I'm here for it. They're smaller, lighter, sleeker looking, and they're just easy to get around towns. And if you think about it, as more and more towns kind of build up that biking infrastructure and get more friendly to bike commuting, here in America, we could see this type of bike really taking off. Now, it's got some head scratchers, like no sizing for people under 5'7", while reserving sizing for people over 6'5" seems a bit backwards to me, and the fact that there's no water bottle bosses or cage mounts in the inside of the frame triangle just seems like an easy win they could have had in production. But with those small fries to the side, this bike is one of the smoothest, quietest, and sleekest, just easy riding e-bikes that I've tested to date, and that's comparing with some of the bigger high-end bikes that carry a much higher price tag. It's just a really well done e-bike that comes in at a pretty approachable price at just $15.99. So if I didn't answer any of your questions or I missed something you want to know about, drop me a comment down below. I'm happy to reply to everybody personally and get you the information you need. If you haven't done so already, consider liking, subscribing, and until the next review, I'll see you guys out on the trail.